Did he have that right? Mark rolled over in the soft, warming sand and watched a young girl walking along the beach. There were not many bathers out yet that morning. The girl was about 18, slim, with a beautiful figure, and totally lost in her thoughts. She moved like a young fawn, totally unaware for the moment of her charms, of her head-turning effect on the boys she passed. Her sleek, golden-brown form moved out of his sight, and Mark continued to stare straight ahead at the changing pattern of the big waves. He would not remember Donna. He would not think about her brutal death. He would not dwell on his Cheyenne ancestry. He would lie there on the beach, and when he tired of it, he would buy a small sailboat and sail by himself down the long Mexican Baja California peninsula and glide into the marvelous Gulf of California, the Sea of Cortez. He would sail and fish and relax and take a year-long siesta. No more would he worry about guns and knives and killing. No more would he experiment with the new CO2 dart gun the professor had perfected, or concern himself with C5 plastic explosives, detonators, and fuses. He would take a year's vacation and let word leak out that the penetrator had died in a diving accident off the coast. That would put an end forever to the continuing search by the Chinaman and the dozen mafia hitmen who had sworn personal vengeance on him and promised to end his career and his life one way or another. A woman? Yes, he would find a woman, one who could trust and understand him, who would know nothing of the deathly chaos he dealt his enemies. Tomorrow he would go and select a boat at Newport Beach. He'd seen hundreds of boats up there. Money to buy it was no problem. They had well over $500,000 from raids on mafia money drawers. He'd need a week to brush up on his sailing techniques and learn how to handle his new boat. He could be ready to push off for Mexico in 3 weeks at the most, and then... "Mr. Hanson? Mr. Hanson?" Mark blinked and sat up, responding to the cover name, one of several he used. A maid from the Sand and Surf Motel, where he was staying, hovered over him, her starched white uniform looking out of place in this vista of bare flesh. She was young and scrubbed, and probably about ready to go back to college somewhere. "Mr. Hanson, I have a message for you." "Yes, what is it?" "A man called. He didn't say who he was. He just told me to tell you that Fox has left its burrow." "That's crazy, I know, but I made him repeat it 3 times. I said I'd come and call you to the phone, but he said that all I needed to do was give you the message. Was he some kind of a crackpot?" Mark shook his head, smiling at the pretty girl. "No, it wasn't a crank call. I just wish I'd hiked farther up the beach. When did he phone?" "About 5 minutes ago." "Thank you." He watched her turn and saw the extra wiggle she put into her walk through the soft sand. She'd go back to school this fall, and some local boys would be unhappy. Mark studied the next green-white foaming wave as it came in, and decided the patterns on top of the breaker looked like white spaghetti. He wondered what David Red Eagle wanted. It was one of the signals for him to get in touch with the stronghold from a safe phone as quickly as possible. Usually his messages came from the professor, but this one had to be from the wily old Cheyenne. Mark stood, shook the towel free of the gray sand, and headed for the motel. Somehow he had a feeling that he would not be looking for a sailboat the next day. Chapter 1. The Dead Giveaway. Malcolm Rather was running for his life. He was a medium-sized man, 5 feet 11, thin and rangy, with a slight pot-belly built up over 33 years of not staying in shape. Now Rather ran harder than he ever had in his life. A rifle cracked 100 yards away, the lead slug shattering on a sandstone ledge he had just reached, shying him away from it, heading him back into the ravine. He didn't want to go that way. Death was down there. He could sense it. Malcolm didn't want to die, but there was no other route. It was go down the gully or face